Hello everyone! Welcome to my three-part series on biblical feminism. This first video is going to be about sharing what is feminism and 10 reasons why here in the year 2018 as a Christian woman I do not identify as a feminist. For those who are not Christians, if you're watching, a lot of these reasons are actually applicable even outside of Christianity, but especially in Christianity it makes a lot of sense that the current movement as it is really is not very aligned with the Bible. Part 2 is going to be about feminism's negative impact on women. And no, I'm not saying all bits of feminism have been bad, but especially in the current movement, I see some of these issues. And I care because I think it's hurting women in a lot of ways. The third video is going to be about biblical femininity. And no, I'm not going to say women need to have tea parties and quilt. It's much more broad than that, and I think that video will really be a more unifying opinion on biblical femininity. And that is really my goal in this. I hope that these videos actually help unify the Christian community around womanhood and what the Bible says, and helps clarify some issues. And I'm going to also share some kind of tips and ideas of how maybe we can communicate with each other in a better way that has more productive conversations, so that we're not just both digging, creating our own little dugouts, right? We don't want that. We want to be unified in one body, because we ultimately, what matters the most, more than anything, more than gender roles, more than traditionalism, is Jesus. And his love covers us all, so let's be slow to anger, quick to forgive, overlook discretions, and try to understand and love each other. But then while doing that, also recognizing some truth that's in the Word of God, and to be aware of some things that are going on in society right now that as a church we may need to be standing against, and I'm going to talk about why that is. What is feminism? It's a movement for political, economic, and social equality. In the little description that I have up here, there's some more words, but in general, that's what it is. And throughout time, it has advocated for a ton of different results and is quite a range, so I'm going to give some specific examples of results that feminists have worked for. And also in this video, I'm really talking a little bit more since 1900s on in the United States, what feminism has looked like as far as sort of the four waves of feminism goes. I recognize internationally there have been movements throughout time, well before the 1900s, there have been advances and reforms and this and that in regards to women. But I'm trying to just focus this more on Western civilization, and specifically the United States. For time's sake, I actually recognize a much greater need for feminism in the way of just advocating for women in a lot of other countries, particularly Islamic countries, where they tend to actually be much more oppressed. And then there is female genital mutilation, and that's a whole nother topic. But that's not what's going on here in the United States, and I'm trying to limit my video here. Another word that is related to feminism that is not quite the same is equalitarianism, I guess. So that's the idea that all people are equal and they deserve equal rights and opportunities. So I believe that a lot of people who maybe right now would identify as feminists really identify as that. Okay, so let's talk about the various ways of feminism and what it has specifically fought for. The first wave, we're talking about really basic legal rights, such as voting rights, and when I wrote property rights, I'm talking about the right to inherit property. The second wave, they get a lot more into birth control, also professional and educational equality, and equality in marriage. Third wave was when they get really going with the abortions, and that even included partial birth abortions. There is a partial birth abortion ban, but feminists were against that. And so that was literally, you induce the woman, she starts giving birth, the baby's mostly out, but then you go ahead and just kill it, jab stuff, whatever, in its head or whatever to kill it. Really, really brutal. But anyway, that's banned now, thank God. But nevertheless, I mean, that is how extreme some of these abortion thoughts are. Anyway. Okay, it gave more attention to alleged rape culture. I have to say that because I have heard so many crazy stories of men who basically, the woman cried rape, and their whole life is ruined. They're kicked out of college, and it was total guilty before proven innocent instead of the reverse. And I think that's a real concern. So I'm kind of a little on the men's advocate side on that. issue. Of course, all people agree that rape is wrong, though. Okay. Also, it encouraged promiscuity, sexual empowerment, and then there's sort of this division in feminism where there's this sexual freedom, you know, do what you want, like porn is empowering, but then there's people who are very mad about women being objectified and say, well, why aren't men also being objectified because women are? Or they're saying you need to stop objectifying us, but we should be able to wear what we want. It's a little bit of a, I don't know, there's definitely a division within feminism. Fourth wave, this is where we get into, you know, continue with the abortion later and later term. So there, you know, things like slut walks, and they created like that phrase slut shaming, and you know, the whole free the nipple thing, which is again kind of contrasting to a movement against sexualizing women, where the you know, Miss America now doesn't have a bikini portion, which, I mean, as a Christian, you know, modesty I'll agree with, but then they're also even saying we're not going to care about beauty. I mean, it is a beauty pageant. Interesting dynamics going on. Some of that fat acceptance, and then kind of like don't wear makeup, don't dress up for any guy. And anyway, gender as a social construct, intersectionality, where basically they bring in race, and so, you know, somebody who is a minority race but a woman is more oppressed and matters pretty much more than somebody who's just a woman. So kind of in my opinion, creating division within females. So it's not just all women, and I would say people should be treated equal. Okay. It can turn into really anti-man. There was that hashtag that trended for a while. I mean, it was kind of a while ago, but that hashtag kill all men, there is actually a group that literally had like a little trailer thing where they like pretended to shoot a man. So some things have gotten really intense. Oh, also toxic masculinity. So anyway, that's just a lot of stuff, and I don't want this video to be forever, but I just want to point out how kind of extreme feminism has become, and some of the things that they really are standing for. Because when I see YouTube comments on videos that speak out against feminism, so often people start talking about, well, don't you think women should vote? Like, you just want them to, you know, be locked in the basement by their husbands? And it's like, no, I don't think that's what people are saying. Let's identify what exactly we're talking about, what we're referring to, and really you can almost only do it item by item, as far as having a productive conversation with somebody and trying to understand people's point of view. For this video, I'm kind of sharing what I'm seeing it at, like what it's really standing for, and why I don't identify as a feminist. But I do recognize that, especially in that first wave, there was a lot of good things that came. In fact, the WCTU was the Women's Christian Temperance Unit, and they actually worked with men who had power to try to make things more fair. And so there, I'll link the article, but it was talking about how they sought to apply biblical principles of social justice to larger society. And that's a beautiful desire to do, right? So I would be behind that, but that was first wave feminism. That was a long time ago, and we are far past that. And I don't think they really ever set out to, once we achieve this, then we feel good. It just continued and continued and continued. Okay, my reasons. I'm going to have to fly through these, and I may have to make later videos explaining these a little bit more. And they're not in any particular order. The first one I'm saying is equality of opportunity versus outcome. So there's a lot of issues with this, and this is where the wage gap comes from. They literally just added up how much do men make, how many do women make, divide by the number of hours. This is the dollar per hour. Oh my gosh, women make less. They did not consider so many factors, such as dangerous jobs. You are way more likely to die on the job or get injured on the job if you are a man than a woman. But is it because people hate men? No, it's because they're doing dangerous jobs. So, and are paid accordingly. You get a premium for that kind of thing. You get a premium if you're working overtime. You get a premium if you are working full-time, or actually more so, you tend to make less per hour if you are not willing to be full-time and you just want to be part-time. That happens with women. It's not because people hate women, it's because women choose to do that at times. Okay, so, and we should have the freedom to do so without feeling guilty that we're pulling down female stats or something. I think what we should be focusing on is the freedom to choose, the opportunities. Women are allowed to apply for any job. Okay, the second one, denial of male-female differences. It denies science and it denies God's design. And let's not get it confused with personality. We're talking about in general society, in broad terms. In general, are men physically stronger than women? Yes. Come on, guys. It is like the emperor's new clothes kind of story, right? Where like nobody wants to say that person's naked, but he is. We know this. It's not controversial. It shouldn't be controversial to admit these things. But I've heard stories of, or actually I guess it's almost in a later point, but where like I think at UPS, I shouldn't say it was UPS, I'm not quite sure, it was something with shipping, and the male basically complained that he was having to help his partner because his partner was a woman and she was not as strong. So I think the average woman would advocate that you should just have the same qualifications, you have the same physical test. If the woman, can do it, great, but if she can't, she, wasn't qualified. But that's not how it always works. A lot of times people are trying to get so many women in these positions that they take people underqualified and then their expectations for them are lower, and that's really not fair. Ultimately, it's kind of denying that it's just like the reason she's struggling is because she's not as strong because she's a woman. And there are other differences as well. Jordan Peterson talks about them some, for instance, the trait agreeableness is very related. Having high agreeableness is not very good for career in general. Low agreeableness, good for your career. Okay, women tend to be more agreeable. That's not in it by itself bad, but it just tends to lead to not as good of career results. There are things women can do. He offers women assertiveness training, and a lot of women have had fabulous results getting raises and making exponentially more money through that because they had admitted what was going on and then dealt with the actual issue instead of just calling everybody sexist. The third one, it encourages promiscuity. So, I don't know if I have to explain this one much, but slut walks, like, come on. Like, we don't need to encourage people to just be promiscuous, and it's kind of like, well, we feel hurt because men were sleeping around and that's not a good feeling, so we're going to now pretend we don't care about meaningless sex, and now we should just do it. And it's so unbiblical. From a Christian perspective, when the Bible is so clear about modesty, so clear about sexual purity, obviously that part is definitely not aligned. It encourages a victim mindset, again, with the oppression, or, the wage gap would be an example. Pointing out everybody else's fault is because I'm a woman, darn this vagina. Like, if you want to be successful in life, you have to take personal responsibility. I have read so many books about personal development and entrepreneurship and all of these things. And no matter who you read, no matter what YouTube video you watch about success and successful people habits and rich people habits and whatever, it is the total opposite of victim mentality. So I'm oppressed, I need a safe space to, not be oppressed, is not what's going to help you actually succeed in life. So this actually hurts women, it hurts people. It's so poisonous to have a victim mentality, and modern day feminism really does that. There are women around the world who truly are oppressed, not in the United States. I'm sorry. It's possible, maybe you one time interviewed with somebody who kind of would rather have a man, but then, there's a million companies, and if in your interview you present yourself in a way that shows that you do have the qualifications you need to effectively do the job, the company is going to hire who's most qualified because they want to make money. That's why I love capitalism. Capitalism sees green, okay? They don't care about what's going on under your pants. They care about how valuable you are to them and how much money you can help make them. The fifth one is that it promotes women over men. So it's not just about equality. It's not about fairness. It's not about just giving women a voice and letting them have a vote. It's about pushing down men. I'm not saying always, but it just does happen. It definitely happened in the court system. Look up some things about that. Men get creamed. Okay, so that's not that's not advocating for equality. That's advocating for supremacy. That's saying you have to vote for Hillary Clinton because she's a woman. And that's also identity politics, which is really limiting to women to believe that all women care about is whether somebody's a woman or not. Like, that's actually very insulting. And I mean, I recognize the Hillary Clinton thing's kind of old, but nevertheless, there was that mentality, and there were people voting literally because she was a woman, and people being encouraged to do that. Like, you're not for women if you don't always choose the woman. No, let's have meritocracy. Vote on merit, not on what's going on underneath somebody's pants. Okay, the next one is that it promotes women's freedom over unborn babies. And as a Christian, I'm kind of surprised I didn't put this one a little higher. Again, it wasn't in order. When we are funding Planned Parenthood, that's also not advocating for personal property rights, but it's forcing people, or religious freedom, because it's forcing people to pay for somebody else's abortion that you believe is murder. That is so wrong on so many levels. It's despicable. But then they're promoting that. And it tried, like Hobby Lobby, trying to force, again, religious freedom, somebody's private business to help fund contraceptives that are against their religious beliefs. So this isn't just like, I'm allowed to take birth control. No, it's like you have to pay for me to do however I want to do this, to have, so I can have sex as much as I want without worrying about a baby. It's your problem, not mine. And then it's denying that it's a life. And even if you don't want to go the religious route with the verse in Psalm about God knowing us in the womb and when we were conceived, I mean, scientifically, a baby has a heartbeat at 5 weeks, okay? Like, you missed your period at 4 weeks. So that's a 1 week period before they have a heartbeat. At week 12, according to kind of the bump.com or one of those, about explaining the development, it's distinctly human. You can have ultrasounds, and when they're doing the heartbeat and stuff, the baby moves around and it can feel these things. And even somebody who said they were pro-choice, but only before 20 weeks, Dave Rubin was talking about the reason he believes after 20 weeks is bad is because scientifically it is the baby, they know for a fact the baby can feel what is going on. And I don't know why they wouldn't be able to feel it a little bit earlier, since they seem to, like when they're doing ultrasounds, they can tell what's going on and they move accordingly. They can be sucking their thumb. You can be going to a 16-week ultrasound, see these things. You can tell what their sex is. Anyway, they're so far developed, is really not looking at what is actually scientifically going on. It's just denying that and saying a woman's choice matters more than anything, including unborn babies. Okay, so the next one is that it threatens freedom of speech, and it's just so divisive because what happens is all kinds of things that people have grown up hearing and saying all of a sudden is this huge offense, and obviously you're misogynistic, and which means like you hate women if you say you throw like a girl. Okay, is it possible to just say, hey guys, I know you didn't mean much of it, but let's try to be a little more sensitive. Don't say throw like a girl. Just say that was bad throwing. Like you throw like a 2-year-old. I don't know. Something else. It's offensive. It's not helpful for women athletes. Okay. But it's like, come on guys. That phrase came because women were throwing like that. And when people saw it over and over and over, they started to say you throw like a girl. Because you were, okay? And so obviously not all women do, but in general there are differences between men and women. But anyway, the point is that it's being oversensitive about language and then labeling people and then trying to say it's hate speech and really trying to fight against that. And that's, I don't think really helpful, and I don't think it's unifying either. I think what I'm suggesting is that, we identify things and say, do we really need to be offended by it? If so, let's teach our kids to be more sensitive and not say this or that, but don't tell them, oh, you obviously hate women, you're a horrible person, nothing you do is valuable because you are sexist. Like that's just too extreme of a response to when somebody's trying to communicate something. Or with the Google example, I'll have to link a video about this, about the guy from Google that got fired because basically he tried to approach the issue of not enough women being in tech from a more scientific point of view and pointed out differences between men and women and suggested remedies that would actually help more women be in tech. But then basically Google says, no, the reason not more women are in tech is because of sexism. So, and you're part of the problem, get out of our company. So that's pretty much what happened, and that's not freedom of speech. That's not even constructive. That's not helpful for women. I don't know that we need to view it as a problem not many women are in tech, but if it were a problem, it would be helpful to find solutions that actually look at reality instead of just assuming everybody who bends over backwards all the time for women are actually all hate women or something and are sexist and don't want to hire them. They're actually trying very hard to hire women. Okay, and so then the last one is that it misleads women about reality. Okay, so there's so many examples. For instance, I mean, the slut shaming thing. Like, you can sit there and hate on people for shaming sluts. If you dress promiscuously, people are going to think differently of you and likely not respect you as much if you dress in a way that is a little bit more within the range of normal. Okay, so I'm not talking about, you have to wear whatever turtlenecks, but it's just be aware that what you wear affects how people think of you, and you could get mad at them for thinking of you that way. You can try to tell them they're bad people for seeing what you wear and the message you communicate with what you wear and then receiving that message, or you can just say, try to decide, what am I trying to communicate, and then dress accordingly. Fat acceptance, like, it is hard as heck to lose weight. It's not helpful if everybody thinks it's fine and everybody's like, oh, it's fine. I mean, I remember being frustrated with that myself, and I'm on a weight loss journey right now, and it's slow and steady and good. But you know what? I had to learn to reject all of the, oh, no, you're fine, you're fine, you're fine. It's almost like you shouldn't try to lose weight, but it's healthier. It is. You feel better. It teaches you better habits. There's a lot of things with not having, as far as Christianity goes, against gluttony, treating your body as a temple, etc. I have a video about that. Anyway, fat acceptance just keeps people stuck. That's the result. So it's just denying reality, and it's trying to mind control people to say, your perception of beauty needs to be this because it makes me feel better. And that's so narcissistic, and is not helpful because it traps people in living a certain way and then just expecting the whole world to change instead of recognizing if you want different results, you need to act differently, or maybe find a different crowd, or do some, but either way, it's doing you do something different, not expect the whole world, and especially for the government, to force people to be different. What does the Bible say about all of this stuff? I mentioned a few things, but some ideas is that God created man and women differently. I'm not saying we have to have traditional gender roles, but we are different. Let's not deny that, and let's not confuse that with personality either. Because obviously different women are different men are different, but in general we are different. Also, hard work creates success. Hard work helps you, not to try to gain unfair advantages and make people have quotas for how many women get in. And crying victim is not a biblical concept. Jesus did not cry victim. Also, love for all people, doesn't matter what race, it doesn't matter male or female, love for all people, not just, tribalism, like always female. God knows, also the idea of God knows you in the womb. I talked about that earlier. I referenced modesty, and then something else I want to talk about is truth. Jesus came with grace, but he also came with truth. Okay, so just allowing lies is not really helpful for anybody, nor is it biblical. And also, the other thing is that with God, he really talks about like him judging, and he'll look at the heart. He'll deal with people if they really are this horrible misogynist person. Okay? What is not helpful is for humans to just go around policing each other, trying to create social justice. Let God be in charge of that, and we can pray for people if you honestly know somebody who is just really distorted. But then also, what would help them change their mind is for them to see women conducting themselves in a really professional, respectable manner, and not get mad at people if somebody sees you and like you get all emotional and are acting crazy, and then they say you're crazy and you're like, that's sexist. No, you're acting crazy. Like, don't act crazy. Not to mention all of these identity politics. It's really very Marxist, which leads to communism, and communism kills millions of people. So not kidding though, there really is a connection to these things. And our identity should be in Christ, not in our gender. And so it really benefits all to have a whole lot more freedom and a whole lot more, much larger range of acceptable speech in this nation and in this world in order to protect against tyrannical thoughts really coming that you're not allowed to check and you're not allowed to say, whoa, why was that guy not allowed to get witnesses from his classmates to share about why he didn't rape that woman? Why is that okay? But with this kind of like, you're horrible if you say anything like that, if you dare to defy the current narrative, you're worthless and your opinion doesn't matter and you're just hurtful and you shouldn't talk. That is when craziness starts happening, and we've already seen it start happening, and it scares me. Yeah, I'd rather risk somebody saying something that's kind of offensive and I can choose what meaning I assign to it than to allow there to be super strict things where basically the government starts trying to totally micromanage everybody's life and businesses. So my conclusion is identify what about feminism you are really talking about, especially if you're talking to somebody. Research issue by issue and identify the mindset behind it and the effects of it for whether you really are supporting it or not. Sometimes things are a little bit deeper than they come off on surface. Also look to the Bible, of course, and pray over it with wisdom in what you will and won't support and what you do and don't teach your children. Recognize that the connotation of words matter, so like the denotation is the actual definition, the connotation is what people think of. So for instance, right now, when there's so much out there where where radical feminism has more of the activists and more of the narrative, if you support them and you say, I am feminist, be aware that you may be supporting something you don't really agree with. So it may make sense to say, I'm egalitarian, or I do not say that word well, say that, or say what you actually mean. Okay, so I'm sorry this ended up being way longer than I was originally planning, but hopefully it has been informative. Obviously you can tell that I'm passionate about this topic. I'll continue on with part 2 about feminism's negative impact on women. I'll probably edit out a lot of the parts where I ran on about that in this video. Save that for the next video, and then the third video is going to be about biblical femininity and what does the Bible say we should act like as females. And what we should really stand for and how we can be a light in this particular biological body that God gave us. Have a good day, guys. Peace. If you like what I'm sharing and want to hear more about these topics, then hit the like button to let me know that you like it, and also hit the subscribe button and notifications so that you do not miss a video. I have new videos coming out every Tuesday, and do let me know in the comments if you want to hear more about biblical womanhood, femininity, feminism, all of these things, because I'm thinking about just making my channel all about that and drop some of the other topics. So let me know if that's something that's interesting to you guys. All right, peace, bye.